All right, hello and welcome to yet another live stream, our PMC Lounge Live, and this is episode 2. Today, we actually have a really good topic that we are going to be discussing, and it is all about let's get started. It's all about Scrum Masters and the top 10 challenges that Scrum Masters face. So, as always, the live stream is essentially divided into three topics. So, we'll first do a quick introduction, followed by our main feature content, which, as I mentioned, is all about the top 10 challenges that Scrum Masters face and how you can actually you know uh, come up with solutions to those challenges. So that is also something that we are going to talk about. So that is going to be the second part of this live stream, which is the feature content, and finally we'll do a last call and do some concluding remarks. So as we start off, I'd like to welcome you all to this super exciting yet another live session, the PMC Lounge Live. That is what we call these, and we plan to actually go live every week. We were live last week, and the whole idea is to delve into real life project management topics, right? So whatever that can help you elevate your career in real life, your project management career, that is. So I hope you are ready for this transformative journey today as we discuss the challenges that Scrum Masters face in real life. So I'd like to request you, you can get comfortable, unwind, and grab a refreshing drink or maybe a delicious snack as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Check the pulse of the discussion and don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments. Drop your comments, throw in some likes, and spread the word to let others know that we are right now live. You can also invite them to join this experience and you can reap the benefits together. So, as I mentioned earlier, these live sessions are divided into three sections. We are right now in the first section. We're just welcoming everyone in, getting started with the content. The next one is going to be the featured content, and then there is the last call where we wind things down. So, on this slide, the first one, you can see a brief introduction about me. Welcome once again. So, let's move forward and talk more about pmclounge.com. So, a quick word here, if you are first time here, you might be watching this live, or if you're watching this even on a replay, I'd like to remind you that PMC in PMC Lounge, it stands for Project Management Certifications. So it might sound like we are all about project management certifications. That's true. We are all about PMP and other such project management related certifications. But additionally, we also like to help you to stay up to date with what's happening in the world of project management. What are the industry trends, right? Reports and all other such good stuff. Our aim here at PMC Lounge is to simplify project management and present the project management topics in the simplest language possible. There are thousands of our community members who have made use of our resources, the articles on pmclounge.com website, the playlists on this YouTube channel itself to pass their PMP exam. So definitely consider subscribing. Drop in a like if you are here and if you're excited about the content that we are going to share today. We are also present on all other social media platforms as well. So definitely check us out there. Especially do join our Telegram channel, which is PMC Zone. All right. So here's a quote before we get into the featured content. This is a quote that you can ponder over for today. A good plan can help with risk analysis, but it will never guarantee the smooth running of the project. Now, is this quote relevant to you? Can you relate to it? Does it bring a bell? Does it ring a bell? Not bring a bell. So, whether you're watching this live or on replay, drop a comment about this quote, and Let me know what you think about it, right? You can have a good plan. It is definitely going to help you with risk analysis, but smooth running of the project, that's where you need superpowers uh, from a project manager to do the execution. So plan is great, but execution is not necessarily going to be smooth, no matter how great your plan is. All right, so let's get started with the content for today's session. And as I mentioned, we are talking about the 10 challenges that Scrum Masters face. But before we go there, I'd quickly like to give a one line difference between a Scrum Master and a project manager. Because we are all about project management, and Scrum Master is not this alien position that has nothing to do with project management, right? So think about this, a project manager is someone who generally has to go through a hierarchy of pyramidal system, right? Project managers, what do? They plan resources, they create schedules, they basically tell people what should be done when, and they ensure that it is done at that given time, given point of time, right? So essentially, you are someone who has some sort of authority here. But when we talk about Scrum Masters have their own ways of not being an overlord in the traditional sense, and are more focused on being the facilitator at the same level as others on their team. So this is important. I mean, they use a word which can be considered harsh. The word that is used here is overlord. It's not like project managers are overlord or something. But yes, as a scrum master, you are not someone who can dictate terms, who can tell people what they should be doing. Because scrum masters work with scrum teams, and scrum teams are essentially self managing teams. So, as a scrum master, you are not directing anyone for anything. Now, obviously, even as a project manager, you might not necessarily be directing someone to do something. You might not be dictating terms and all, because a project manager is also a position that requires influence much more than authority. But it becomes even more important in the context of a scrum master, where scrum master is considered someone who is a facilitator, who is not someone who has any sort of authority. Obviously, scrum master need to have influence for sure, but the problem arises that project teams are not necessarily considered as self-organizing or self-managing teams, but scrum teams are considered self-organizing or self-managing. So here lies the start of the problems for a scrum master, right? So we are talking about the top 10 challenges that scrum masters face and how you can overcome these challenges. Now, the first thing is, as such, scrum masters do not have any authority. So that is one of the reasons why they might face resistance, which is something that we touched upon earlier as well. And this resistance may come from inside their team or outside from various other stakeholders of a project, right? So Scrum Masters, they do not have authority. They are more of a facilitator, right? And they work in a team that is self-organizing, self-managing. So what are the issues because of this? Let's start off with the first issue, and that is the time box. There is definitely going to be some difficulty in sustaining the time box. Time box, for those of you who do not know, is it can be 2 weeks, it can be 4 weeks, right? So it's essentially a time that is defined in the scrum environment or in the agile environment, where the team is going to produce a deliverable, right? So the scrum master is always the one to keep a keen watch on sustaining the time boxed activities. Time box is defined as the upper limit of spans provided for events. Now, if the teams cannot contemplate, they cannot focus on the goal. So, lack of focus will always hinder the purpose of events. And if the scrum masters do not withhold the direction of the team, excessive delays will lead to more distractions. So this is essentially a problem with the time box. You as a scrum master have the responsibility of ensuring that the events are essentially completing in the given time box. Now, what is the recommended action here if time box is your problem? You should always sustain clarity on each event's agenda. And when I mentioned earlier that a time box would be a 2 week or 4 week, I was talking about the sprint, right? I was talking about the iteration. But if you think about it, all events in Scrum environment or in Agile environment have some sort of time box given to them. Even meetings have a time box. Now, if you are not aware of what a time box is, if you want to know more about Agile, check out the playlist in the description. There is a playlist for Agile, and that is where you'll be able to understand all the concepts of Agile. This playlist is going to help you with your PMP preparation. If you are going for PMP and want to cover agile topics for PMP, and this is also going to help you with some other agile related certifications like ACP, like CSM. All right, so what is the recommended action here? Always sustain clarity on each event's agenda. Explain the importance of time boxing to everyone on your Scrum team. Now, if someone tries to go off topic, you need to clarify that there are issues that can be dealt with separately, as the time right now, the team's time right now is invaluable. So, you need to leverage your facilitation skills to deal with such challenges. So, time box definitely issue number one or challenge number one for any scrum master out there. Let's talk about challenge number two. So, what do you do again? As a scrum master, have you heard this sentence ever? So, what do you do, right? Like, people might be aware that you're the scrum master, people might be aware at a very high level that you are someone who's facilitating this entire thing. But when it comes to actually getting down to work, what exactly is it that you do as a scrum master, right? So some people might even consider that the role of a scrum master is nothing but an overhead. So you have to get this straight. The scrum master is definitely not an overload. It is not any authoritative high chair as well. Scrum Masters are just contributing members who facilitate and unleash the team's intelligence and remove all hitches that hinder the smooth progress of the team. So, wherever this happens, that somebody questions you, what do you do again? Or they sound like they think Scrum Master position is maybe an overhead on the team, on the organization. What is it that you should be doing? Scrum Masters should always build their credibility from day one. Now, when I say credibility, I don't mean they need to have a high ego or something, right? Instead of telling people what they need to do, which is something that project managers might do, you should allow people to solve their problems on their own. Now, as part of the Scrum team or the Agile team, you need to look for opportunities to build a rapport with people. Do not burden yourself from day one. That you should not think that I need to smoothen the journey for the team and ensure that the processes and principles are followed and all that. Don't do that from day one. Build the rapport first. Let the team manage themselves. Let the team know that you are there to facilitate. If your services are required, if your guidance is required, you are always there. So that kind of rapport is something that you as a scrum master need to build. All right, let's move on to challenge number 3 that scrum masters face, and that is senior management's lack of endorsement. And this again is related to point number 2, where certain sections, certain stakeholders might think that Scrum Master role is actually an overhead. And if this creeps into this thinking, this line of thinking creeps into senior management, that is where you're going to see this problem of lack of endorsement, right? Lack of buy in from senior management. Now, the first thing that you need to understand here is that agile is a mindset. And this is something that everyone in the team and everyone in the company need to realize. So there is a possibility that the senior management does not come on board with this shift from the traditional way of delivery to agile. So you have to understand that agile is a mindset. You have to ensure that even the senior management gets on board. Now, obviously, you cannot advise the senior management members about why they should embrace agile approach. You should help them understand how it can benefit and how it can solve their pain points. Now, it is likely that when you try and do so, when you look for opportunities that you can help explain what agile is and how agile approaches can help and benefit, they are going to step in line and they are going to embrace this agile way of working as well. So you have surveys, you have retrospectives, you have large group facilitation techniques. All of these are helpful. Look for opportunities like these. I mentioned surveys, I mentioned retrospectives, I mentioned large group facilitation opportunities. If you have such opportunities, make use of them, and this is going to help you get the buy in from senior management. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about challenge number 4 that Scrum Masters face, and that is insufficient training. So, obviously, yeah, I mean, enough with the team members, enough with higher management. Let's talk about ourselves. We, as Scrum Masters, do we have enough training, or is there any issue of lack of training? Now, although the Scrum framework, it is pretty easy to understand, but it is definitely challenging to master unless everyone knows the values behind it and the underlying reasons for following these principles and the framework, right? They will not be invested in it enough to follow it closely. So follow the fundamental training and ensure that formal fundamental training should be followed and should be a must for everyone on your team, so that everyone is on the same page. It shouldn't be like you're talking about agile values, you're talking about agile principles, and nobody in the team has ever heard about what these are, right? So, obviously, the one thing you need to understand is that Scrum is all about self managing teams, and these teams create value. You, as a Scrum Master, you need to ensure that you have enough training yourself. You need to ensure that you have certifications under your belt. You need to ensure that you go for trainings regularly, you go for education regularly to brush up your skills in agile. And at the same time, this is not just for the Scrum Master, right? You also need to ensure that uh, formal training is something that your team also get. So you can do this by leveraging facilitation, you can leverage coaching, mentoring skills. If your group or the Scrum team is not well versed with why uh, you know why we follow a certain approach, then it is your job as a Scrum Master to get them up to speed and train them thoroughly. So, as a Scrum Master, it is definitely your responsibility to ensure that insufficient training is not a problem, be it yourself or be it the entire team. All right, let's talk about challenge number 5, and that is lack of coordination between agile team and other stakeholders. Now, it is possible, this actually happens in organizations where one team has adopted agile and other stakeholders, people who deal with this team, are not following agile, right? So they are on their own way of working, and there's just one team that has adopted agile. So this coordination, this lack of understanding is something that develops between agile team and stakeholders. Now, when agile teams might be having all skills and proficiency to follow all agile methods, There are others in the organization that I spoke of earlier, right? These stakeholders could be suppliers. They might not follow agile, and it might not even be worth it for them to understand what agile is. So there is something that you can do here. You need to in order to, what first way is, obviously you can get your suppliers and stakeholders and everyone to tell them, inform them, educate them about the new ways of working, about agile and not, right? So they can understand that there is an iterative approach that you are following, and this is going to help gain feedback at quicker and regular intervals as well. So the best way to solve impediments outside the Scrum team, and this is where we are talking about other external stakeholders, right? So the best way to solve such impediments is to invite these outside stakeholders to appropriate events and keep them aware, keep them informed, to make sure that they even have some stakes. So you can even there are certain contractual models that you can employ if you are working with external stakeholders. I mean, stakeholders that are outside of your organization, and you deal with them. They could be suppliers, right? So there are possibly contractual models that you can look into to ensure that they also understand and follow the agile way of working that you are. But people, stakeholders that are internal to your organization, you can always invite them to your maybe your demos, your retrospectives, right? Even to your planning, so that they get a feel of how you are working and how they can also adopt something like this in their day to day work, right? Now, let's talk about challenge number 6, and that is all about product owner dynamics. Now, I say dynamics, it is possible that the relationship that the Scrum team has with the product owner is not up to the mark. It is possible that the relationship is perhaps unhealthy. A product owner is supposed to be uh, you know someone who need to put efforts toward the goal of the product. Now, it is possible that the personalities that you have in the room, that you have in the team, right, they clash, and this might affect communications, and this might even affect the company's progress in the long run. So obviously, agile teams or Scrum teams are smaller teams, and it is possible that you have this clash of personalities, and you have this team members that might not see eye to eye at all times. So there is possible that you have fully blown misunderstandings, and all of these put hindrances over the product's progress. So you, as a Scrum Master, you and even the product owner should solve minor conflicts with ease and understanding towards each other. And this also applies for misunderstandings between product owner and the team, Scrum Master and the team and the product owner, or the Scrum Master and the product owner, right? Anyway, so a supportive relationship that facilitates give and take is necessary for the team's budding as a whole. So that is something that you need to understand. uh, this is, I added this because this is something that we often see, right? Because these roles, the product owner, the Scrum team, the Scrum Master, these roles are essentially designed in a way that the possibility of having friction is actually pretty high, because all of these, although the end goal, all of them have the same end goal, but when they are working, when they are in the midway of delivering something, it is possible that all of them look at in a different direction, right? So the way these roles are defined essentially leads to some sort of unhealthy relationship, right? So it is possible that this happens, but always ensure that the lines of communication are open, and there is ease and understanding in the environment that you're working in. All right, let's talk about challenge number 7, and that is Scrum Master responsibilities. Now, this is where things start to get interesting. So, you as a Scrum Master, some people might think, Scrum Master doesn't have a lot of work. Some people might think that Scrum Master is, just an overhead for the team. And it is possible that if this line of thinking creeps into higher management, you might be given certain tasks which are admin tasks in nature, and tasks which you as a product, not a product, but a Scrum Master should not be doing, especially if they are admin tasks, right? So we see Scrum Masters find themselves instantly as they have to book meeting rooms, right? So schedule events, and they also need to do follow up for events, right? So they are someone who are doing all of these are uh, essentially some of the responsibilities that Scrum Masters do. They are finding meeting rooms, they are scheduling events, they are doing follow up and all that. So these are some of the stuff that are essentially part of the Scrum Master role, and they can help you get started. But at the same time, this should not bubble into something higher. This should not give out a feeling to the Scrum team that the Scrum Master is essentially responsible for doing just the admin tasks. That is not the right approach here, right? So this should definitely not be a distraction from the core responsibilities and accountabilities that a Scrum Master has. So, the primary function of the Scrum Master is to facilitate when needed, and any additional responsibilities shouldn't deflect you from fulfilling your core accountabilities. So, try to avoid these responsibilities and let the team manage them independently. These responsibilities that we are talking about, which might not be stuff that you are primarily responsible for. So, one of the things that I often see is, as I mentioned earlier as well, scheduling meetings, booking rooms, following up with people. This is something that Scrum Masters usually do, and that's where a lot of people tend to think that all these uh, coordination sort of work, or all these overhead activities, is something that Scrum Master can take care of. So always ensure whatever that's coming to your kitty as a responsibility is something that you have vetted against what your primary roles and responsibility is, your primary accountability is, right? So always vet these new items coming your way against your primary responsibilities. All right, let's talk about challenge number 8 that Scrum Masters face, and that is performance measurement. So we are talking about team performances versus individual performances. The Scrum team, they must function as one and work toward achieving the team goals rather than building a person's value. This is very, very important. So, when Scrum Masters come across such people who try to create unrest in agile approaches by forcing, let's say, individual success, and it is likely that they do not gel well with other Scrum team members, right? This leads to unintended repercussions. Now, the team values may toss if the company culture rewards the individual over the team. When we talk about Scrum, when we talk about agile ways of working, Scrum team, self-organizing team, self-managing team, the focus is very heavy on the word team, because it is all about teamwork here. And whenever there is a person in the team, and it is, you know it is not impossible that this person is the Scrum Master himself or herself, or is the product owner, or someone from the development team, right? The Scrum team. So this person can be anyone. But whenever you find that there is a person who is, not gelling well with everyone else, and who wants to maybe highlight his or her own achievement over the achievement of the teams, this is going to create a problem in the kind of environment that you are operating in. And the worst happens when the management, the higher management, they reward this person because they think, this person is highlighted enough to be rewarded. That is very, very incorrect. So what can you do here? So, you can always ensure that everyone in the team understands that our culture, the agile way of working, is to always give priority to the team and teamwork. That is something that matters the most, and not individual appraisals or you know individual achievements. They will always come second. The first thing will always be team achievements, team roles and responsibilities, the goals of the team, right? So that is something that is again a job of the Scrum Master to help people understand the value of this paradigm shift from individually, highlighting and individually congratulating someone, to move from this sort of working to an environment that essentially celebrates teamwork, that essentially celebrates the team that is able to achieve the goals, right? So always focus on the team and less on individuals. All right, let's move on. Challenge number 9 is timely problem resolutions, getting speedy resolution to problems. Now, this is again a challenge for the Scrum Master because you're working in this Scrum environment, you're working in this Agile environment. A lot of people tend to think that, Agile is all about speed. Agile and Scrum, this is about, delivering quickly, getting feedback quickly, improving quickly. So even if you face any issue, if there is an obstacle, right, uh, it will be resolved very fast, right? It will have a speedy resolution. Now, of course, this is the responsibility of a Scrum Master to ensure that there are any impediments in the team's path, they are resolved as soon as possible. But it is also possible that there are instances where the number of obstacles make it difficult from Scrum Master for the Scrum Master to reach to collective decisions quickly, right? So it could be the scale of the problem, it could be the volume of the problem as well. So if it's a large problem that requires people from outside the Scrum team as well, right, their involvement is also required. So you as a Scrum Master are is supposed to solve those problems. But then if the issue is large and requires a lot of other people outside the Scrum team, it is going to take some time. Sometimes that is the scale that we spoke of, right? Sometimes it is possible that the volume of issues that you're facing is just way too high, and it is going to take time for a Scrum Master to understand which are our top priority issues, which are our top priority problems or impediments that should be solved first, right? So that is something which is a challenge when it comes to timely problem resolutions or getting speedy resolution to problems. What you can do is you can cultivate a culture of shared responsibility within the team. Now, this obviously will come with mutual respect, with trust, with communication between the Scrum team members. But if you are able to create this culture of shared responsibilities, it is likely that some of the team members might, tackle impediments, tackle problems on their own as well. And they might not even ask for Scrum Master's involvement. So that is something that you are aiming for. Because end of the day, you're working in a self-organizing you're working with a self-organizing team, a team that self-manages, right? So obviously Scrum Master is not someone who should be seen and be consulted for every single problem. So this will obviously happen if there is a culture of mutual respect, trust and communication between the Scrum team members. So good Scrum Masters, they know the craft of building problem solving abilities in every Scrum team member, every Agile team member. And that is something that you should aim for as well. Let's talk about the 10th challenge that Scrum Masters face, and that is, so what team do you work with again? Now, what happens is A lot of companies out there, they hire scrum masters, but the scrum masters work with multiple teams. So there is a single scrum master who is working with multiple scrum teams, and that is where someone might ask you, hey, what team do you work with anyways? Now, this is actually a problem because the way Scrum defines this role of a Scrum Master, uh, he or she is supposed to work with only one team. So, if a Scrum Master is supporting multiple teams, then obviously the team is going to lose dedicated support and the accessibility to the Scrum Master, because Scrum Masters are essentially going to be stretching themselves, and they might be stretching themselves too thin with all these several teams that they are working on. So, it is likely that in this environment, the Scrum Masters are not able to serve the Scrum teams with their full potential. What is it that you can do here? If you are a Scrum Master who is in this stretched environment of sorts, right? Uh, the first thing is obviously you can help the organization understand the way this role is defined, and you can even partner with leadership to create a full-time employment plan, a long-term employment plan, right? Now let's say if that is not possible and you have to work with various teams, you can also try to focus your energy on just the critical things that need your attention, right? So you might be working with five teams, but just focus in on the most critical issues that these five teams are facing. And obviously, when we talked about a previous point here where we said that you need to cultivate that environment of trust and communication so that the team members are also able to solve some of their problems, that is also going to be handy here, that is also going to be helpful here when you have multiple teams to work with. So the last takeaway from this session today is that the role that we talked about today, the Scrum Master role, it is challenging and it is a complex role. But it is definitely the most critical and the most pivotal to the Scrum team. Scrum Masters should blend soft skills, knowledge, and capabilities to overcome obstacles and the challenges that we discussed today to achieve the set goals. These abilities are going to come from experience, they are going to come from training, certifications, watching videos like these to be able to understand these problems and find solutions to such problems, right? So, that is something that you as a Scrum Master need to deploy. Now, I hope you're getting value out of this live stream so far. Drop a like if you do, and let me know. It helps me stay motivated and do more PMC Lounge live sessions. Before I talk about Lounge Access, by the way, that you can see on your screen right now, let me know what did you think about the stuff, the topic that we discussed today. Would you like to add any other challenges that we've already discussed, right? 10 challenges we discussed. Do you want to add any 11th or 12th one to it, to the list? And is there something that you found that in this video that you would want to discuss with me? Or you want to just share something with me based on these 10 challenges that we discussed today, right? So that is where when discussing with me part comes into the picture, that is where Lounge Access comes into the picture too. You can discuss your career goals, you can get your PMP questions around questions around PMP answered, PMP certification, that is. You may talk about project management career path if you want to jump into the project management domain, or we can actually discuss anything as long as we stick to project management. You can contact admin@pmclounge.com and the team is going to help you schedule a meeting. So take advantage of this opportunity. This is aptly titled Lounge Access because remember, we are PMC Lounge. So a bit of a wordplay there, and we call this Lounge Access. All right, here's a testimonial. Last time around, I shared a testimonial, and I heard that the word going around was that testimonials will be featured if they are big and lengthy and all that. That is not true. If you want to drop us a feedback, please do so. It helps us keep motivated. It helps us keep going. Head over to pmclounge.com/write. If your testimonial is going to be as small as Judy, I will still, try to include it here and try to sort of feature it in one of our next live sessions. So that's all that we had in this video. I hope you got value out of it. Like, share, subscribe. If you like our work, consider contributing by using the thanks button. And I'll catch you guys in the next live session, as well as other videos that we upload on a weekly basis. All right. Thank you and have a nice day.